You know that feeling, the heat rising in your chest, the jaw tightening, the words forming that you'll regret for years. In that moment, you're not yourself. Something else takes over. Something primitive, destructive, and when it's done, you're left staring at the damage, wondering why you keep losing control. Anger has cost you more than you realize. Relationships destroyed by words you can't take back. Opportunities lost because you couldn't stay calm. Respect eroded because people saw the monster beneath the surface. You've tried controlling it, suppressing it, counting to 10. Nothing works because you've been fighting the wrong battle. 2,000 years ago, Stoic philosophers mastered anger in ways modern psychology still doesn't understand. They didn't suppress it. They transformed their relationship with it entirely. Today, I'm going to give you 8 Stoic strategies that will ensure you never lose your mind to anger again. Subscribe and comment what triggers your anger most. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Burning Man. His name was Marcus, 36 years old. Construction manager, good at his job, terrible at controlling his temper. His crew feared him. His wife walked on eggshells. His children flinched when he raised his voice. Last Tuesday, a subcontractor made a mistake that cost the project 3 days. Marcus exploded, threw a clipboard, screamed until his throat hurt. The subcontractor quit on the spot. The project fell further behind. That night, his wife said the words he dreaded. "The kids are scared of you. I'm scared of you. Something has to change." Marcus sat alone that night, ashamed. He wasn't a bad person, but his anger made him act like one. He searched for answers and found an ancient philosophy that promised something different. Not anger management, anger mastery. The Stoics had 8 principles that transformed rage into reason. Strategy 1. The pause before reaction. Seneca wrote that the greatest remedy for anger is delay. Marcus learned that between trigger and response exists a space. In that space lives choice. The Stoics trained themselves to extend that space, not through willpower but through practice. Marcus started small. When anger arose, he took 1 breath before speaking. Just 1. That single breath created enough gap for his rational mind to engage. The first week he failed often. The second week, the pause became slightly longer. By month 2, the pause was automatic. Strategy 2. Question the story. Epictetus taught that we are disturbed not by events, but by our judgments about events. When the subcontractor made a mistake, Marcus immediately created a story. "He's incompetent. He doesn't respect me. He's ruining my reputation." But were these stories true? Marcus learned to question his interpretations. Maybe the subcontractor was undertrained. Maybe the instructions were unclear. Maybe mistakes are simply part of complex projects. The event remained the same. The story changed. And with the story, the anger dissolved. Chapter 2. The Transformation. Strategy 3. Consider mortality. Marcus Aurelius wrote that we should remember how brief our time is. How foolish to waste it in rage. When Marcus felt anger rising, he began asking himself a strange question. Will this matter when I'm dying? The subcontractor's mistake. Would he remember it on his deathbed? His children's faces when he screamed. Would those memories haunt him? This perspective didn't dismiss problems. It proportioned them correctly. Most things we rage about are insignificant in the span of a life. Strategy 4. Assume ignorance over malice. Hanlon's razor states never attribute to malice what can be explained by ignorance. The Stoics practice this constantly. When someone offends you, assume they didn't know better. Assume they're struggling with their own battles. Assume they're not attacking you personally. Marcus applied this to his crew. The worker who arrived late wasn't disrespecting him. Perhaps he had a sick child. The subcontractor who made mistakes wasn't incompetent. Perhaps he was never properly trained. This assumption didn't excuse poor performance. It removed the personal sting that fueled rage. Strategy 5. Remember your own flaws. Seneca advised that before becoming angry at another's fault, we should examine our own conscience. Marcus began keeping a list of his own mistakes. Times he was late, times he was incompetent, times he failed others. When someone else failed, he looked at his list. How could he rage at others for sins he committed daily? This wasn't about self-hatred. It was about humility. The humble man rarely burns with anger because he knows he's no better than those who offend him. Chapter 3. The Mastery. Strategy 6. Practice voluntary discomfort. The Stoics deliberately exposed themselves to hardship. Cold baths, simple food, difficult situations. Why? Because comfort creates fragility. The person who is never uncomfortable explodes at minor inconvenience. Marcus started taking cold showers, skipping meals occasionally, working in difficult conditions without complaint. His tolerance for discomfort grew. Things that once triggered rage became minor annoyances. His threshold for anger expanded because his capacity for discomfort expanded. Strategy 7. See the trigger as a teacher. Epictetus taught that every difficulty is training for the soul. Marcus stopped viewing provocations as attacks and started viewing them as opportunities. Each moment of potential anger became a chance to practice control. The difficult client wasn't a problem. He was a teacher of patience. The incompetent worker wasn't a burden. He was a teacher of composure. This reframe didn't eliminate frustration. It gave frustration purpose. Every trigger became a rep in the gym of emotional strength. Strategy 8. Focus only on what you control. This is the foundation of Stoic philosophy. We control our thoughts, our reactions, our efforts. We don't control others, outcomes, or circumstances. Marcus realized most of his anger came from trying to control the uncontrollable. He couldn't control whether workers made mistakes. He could control how he responded. He couldn't control whether projects ran smoothly. He could control his composure when they didn't. This focus on controllables eliminated the helpless rage that comes from fighting reality. Chapter 4. The New Man. 6 months later, Marcus was unrecognizable, not because he never felt anger, but because anger no longer controlled him. He felt the heat arise. He noticed it. He applied the strategies. The heat passed. His crew noticed first. You seem calmer, more approachable. His wife noticed next. The kids aren't afraid anymore. His colleague asked how he changed so completely. Marcus smiled. I stopped trying to never feel angry. I started training myself to never act on anger. There's a massive difference. This is the Stoic gift, not the elimination of emotion, the mastery of response. Anger will always arise. You're human. But the space between feeling and action can be infinite if you train it properly. The 8 strategies again. Pause before reacting. Question your story. Remember your mortality. Assume ignorance over malice. Remember your own flaws. Practice voluntary discomfort. See triggers as teachers. Focus only on what you control. These aren't techniques. They're a complete restructuring of your relationship with anger. Practice 1 this week. Add another next week. In 6 months, you won't recognize yourself. So here's my question. Which strategy do you need most right now? Which trigger has been controlling you that you're ready to master? Comment below. Subscribe if this transformed your thinking. The Stoics mastered anger 2,000 years ago. Now it's your turn.